I think, there is the story about the bus driver who wanted to be God, which is a story that I wrote after buying some food at the market. And while I went in the main street, I saw an elderly woman running with her bags, full of groceries after a bus. And she missed the bus stop, but the bus had stopped at the red stoplight. And when she reached the bus, she started knocking on the door of the bus because she wanted the driver to open it for her. But of course, the driver, just became more indifferent, with every knock. And it was very unpleasant to watch it because it's an old woman and she knocks and she's angry and she's cursing, And then suddenly she did this kind of a change, and she put her bags down and she did this motion of like praying, looking up. And the moment that she did it, the gates of the bus opened and she took the bags and got in, and it was a green light, and the bus drove away. And when it happened, my first thought was how much godlike bus drivers are. They sit up there in a comfortable chair. They know when the bus is full and they close the door. Or when you give them a big note, they say, "Why don't you have a correct change?" And you feel guilty, And but when I sat down to write the story, the more I wrote the story, the more I understood that the story is about something else, and it's about the fact that many times we are fixed in the way in which we portray the other. And then there is a moment in which we're able to shift the way that we look at. And the bus driver, for example, who said, "Oh, this is a rude woman knocking on my door," was able in a second, the second she did that, to see her as somebody who could have been his grandmother. And the woman that knocked on the doors and was angry and wanted revenge on this driver, was able to make this shift and suddenly say, "Okay, it's his job, it's not a bus stop." So each of them was able to see the other. And I think that that even though in the beginning I thought it was about being a god, only when I wrote the story I understood it was about kind of being human. And I think that this is the thing that I see more and more time when I write a story, is that a good story is always smarter than the person who writes it. It's not as if you know something and you execute it. You know something that is obscure, and as you do it, the story leads you to places that your consciousness wouldn't be able to lead you. I remember the story behind the title story of the second book, one last story and that's it. I wrote it a very long time ago. I went with my friend to a bar, and we drank beer, and we were all a little drunk. And my friends already left, and I said, "Okay, I finished my beer and I go home." And then when I was just about to get up, a really, really big man, he looks like a refrigerator, comes and he hit me on the back and he says, "Now you're going to have a beer with me." And I don't know him, but my mother always said to me, if you meet somebody really big and he asks you to do something, always do it, So I said, okay, and I drink a beer with him. And when I speak to the man, he says to me, "I have the best profession in the world." And I ask him, "What's your work?" And he says, "I'm a repossessor. When people can't pay their debt, I come and take things from their house." And I said to him, "How come it's such a good job?" He says, "Well, every day I start my work, it's like an adventure. I don't know where I go. I go into other people's apartment like I own them." And he said, and as he talked about it and he was drunk, I could see that he really hates his job, but he was trying to build a case to himself why his life was really, really good. And he said, when I repossess things from people, I always play this game with me, that when I enter their apartment, I try to guess what's the most precious thing for them. Because there are many people that you come and you take their TV and the refrigerator, they don't care. But if you touch their jazz record collection, or if you take their books, they say, "Oh, please don't take it," So he said, I always play this game in my mind, try to figure out what is the precious thing for those people. And I said to this guy, if you ever come to my place, you can take everything. I don't mind. And he says, yeah, sure, this is what everybody says. So I went home, and it was very late at night, and I was drunk, and I went to bed, and I wore my pajamas, and I was in bed, and then I start thinking, what if he comes to my house and he takes the thing that is most precious for me, and I don't even know it's precious for me, so I can't hide it. So I said, okay, I get up now, and I start looking through all the things that I own and try to find this thing and hide it, because when you're drunk you think stupid thoughts. So I got up, but the thing is that I hardly own anything. I have a table, a chair, a computer, but I don't care for the computer itself, a stereo, and I check all the things, and I see that there's nothing that I care about, and I become more and more stressed because I say, yeah, but he said that everybody thinks it is like this, I have to find it, and at some stage, it was like 4 a.m., I become really, really tired, and I say, I don't know what this thing is. So I sat down, but I couldn't sleep, and I wrote down this story about these demons that takes things take the talent from the writer. Because I guess through the story I understood that the only thing I'm afraid that will be taken away from me is the ability to write stories. When I sat down to write the story, I wanted to write a story about myself. But the truth is that the experience that I had this night was that I met a man who hates his job and who keeps convincing himself that he likes it. So in the end, the story I wrote was not so much about myself, but about this repossessor. And of course, like in the final draft of the story begins and ends with the demon, not the writer.